legends, welcome back. It's Tuesday, and after the release of Tempus, we're sitting here with the legend, the creator himself, Menny Lindenfeld. How are you, mate? Let's do this.
Hey there, how are you?
Good, mate. How are you?
I'm okay, a little tired, but I am okay.
Been a busy weekend for you. Congratulations on Tempus coming out, mate.
Thank you. It took me a long time to make this. Actually, It was the hardest project I've ever done so far.
It is insane because the masterclass is broken up into 4 volumes, if you will. It's so much in-depth instructions, not just into like, hey, you're going to stop a watch. You cover the whole deal. Can you tell us a little bit about the project itself?
Okay, so basically the main idea, which was, by the way, a very different thing, started about 2 decades ago, more or less, right? In this project, besides everything about Tempus, I actually added the same gimmick that I've been using 2 decades ago, which I don't use anymore today so much. Only made some kind of comeback for me because of C19, you do a lot of Zoom shows now. So all of a sudden, that old gimmick became handy for that for the Zoom shows, which is great. And so I decided to add it as well. So basically, when you get Tempus, you don't just get what you need for Tempus. You also get that old gimmick. And I also dedicated an entire volume, which is volume number 4, just for that gimmick. So people can not just play with Tempus, but also play with that pre-Tempus, basically.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And you ask what is in Tempus. So you have the gimmicks, you have the accessories, you have that old pre-Tempus gimmick as well. And you have 4 volumes, which is more than 4 hours of teaching. And I'm talking about in-depth teaching of everything you need to know about watches, not just how to stop a watch, but to understand why and how it works so that you can come up with your own ideas using the Tempus system for your own ideas and effects. And what's great about this is that you can actually use this in many different situations, in many different ways. So you don't even have to do the same exact routine every single time. When all other kinds of gimmicks that I've been using, probably all of them throughout my career. And the one big problem I always found when stopping a watch is that it doesn't matter how good that gimmick is that you always have to hold the watch in a certain position to stop it. And it doesn't matter how many times you want to do it, it's always the same position that you have to hold the watch. And once you cause that watch to stop, you have to hold that watch in that certain position, which for me always looked a little bit, it didn't look like if you had supernatural powers, that wouldn't look like that. You could stop a watch, leave the watch and just, breathe completely free. And this is what I actually try to accomplish with Tempus, to make it look and feel like it's real, like you have supernatural powers. So once you stop a watch, you don't have to hold the watch anymore. You can even put it on the table, walk out the room if you want to. It stopped. That's it. The watch is dead, and you can do this with more than one watch. You can do it with as many watches as you want, and so on.
I love that. So you can borrow a watch, and you can even do it with I've seen a clock in the background. You can do it with a wall clock too.
With a wall clock, yeah. You do have to do some kind of setup, obviously. But it's not a big deal. I actually teach 2 different methods of how to do this. One would be a method where, let's say you go out and perform somewhere. Let's say it's an office and you have a room you perform to the guys who work there, and you have the room for yourself a few minutes before the show. You can do a little setup. It doesn't take long. Right? The setup is maybe a minute, maybe less even. And you do this only once, and it's there for you. The clock is going to work completely normal. And when you're ready to stop that watch, you can actually use this as a climax effect during that small gathering where you perform. What you have seen in the trailer is an even more visual setup for that thing, which is something that you would probably do when you have like full control of that environment. But again, you can also do this out there with somebody else's clock. It doesn't have to be your own clock. You just need to rig the clock somehow. And so I give the 2 options so that people who want to perform this, they can decide which one to use. There's the bigger setup, but it looks nicer, and the smaller setup, which still looks amazing, but it's a little different than the first one.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's the thing. You cover a range of different styles, like performance styles. It can be from your close-up walk-around magician to, like you said, your corporate stage magician who's closing up a gig and wants to fry some minds. And there's some questions coming in about the types of watches you can use. are there limitations to the kind of watches? And a reoccurring one is also too, is will it damage the watch? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Okay, so the answer is, I've seen some of the questions you mentioned. Can you use it for a mechanical watch, or does it have to be a quartz watch? I've seen that. And this is a question that I actually got some people writing me on Facebook the same question. The answer is yes and no, and I explain. I did it many times with mechanical watches. In the tutorial, I actually tell people do not do this with a mechanical watch, just because mechanical watches nowadays, at least, they are more expensive watches. And why would you take a risk? My specific gimmick is a little different than, you know how it works. So it's a little different than the other gimmicks out there. So the chance of actually ruining the watch with that are probably zero, yes. But still, when I perform, I always look for the cheapest watch. Why? Because let's say the spectator thinks that you have done something, which you haven't. Why would you take a risk and then owe somebody, $5,000 for his Rolex that he tells that you said you did something to it, even though you didn't? And the other thing is that mechanical watches, I noticed that it doesn't work with all mechanical watches. It works with some, especially the older ones, like many years ago, but it doesn't work with all of them. With quartz watches, it actually works with probably every kind of watch out there. And I've also done some research nowadays. 95% of all watches manufactured around the world are quartz watches anyway. So it's easier to find, easier to do with them. It will work with most of them, or at least probably all of them. And you probably won't get into trouble, just in case, you know?
Yeah, that's it. Well, like you said, play to your room.
Yeah.
Don't risk it. So if you're... Yeah, but like you said,
it doesn't add to the effect.
Yes.
When you stop a watch, if it is expensive, it doesn't mean anything. I mean, the fact that you can stop a watch assuming with your mind, that's good enough, I think.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Yeah, and actually in the tutorial, I also talk about how to very easily identify. They actually showed 3 different ways of how to find the right watch when you want to perform, and the spectator doesn't even have to remove the watch from his wrist. Just look at the audience and look at the watches for like briefly, and in 1 second you can immediately know if that watch is a quartz watch, if it's a mechanical watch, just by looking at the watch for a moment. And there are a few ways to do this, so I explain all of them.
Oh, that's incredible. Yeah, because like you said, there's 4 hours of tutorial. You're covering, and you've been doing this for years, so you know everything.
By the way, in the first volume of Tempus, like I said, I go into like in depth, actually, I call this under the hood. I actually show the mechanism of both mechanical watches and quartz watches, and I explain people like the idea of how these components work and why they stop when you stop it, and so that people really understand what they're doing after they learn it, and after when they go into the system, they already have that basic knowledge of watches, because I think it's very important that it's just not just stop a watch, just to understand.
Yes.
And by the way, throughout the entire tutorial, I've also put in did you know facts, like small animations now and then, which give you the different history of timekeeping that goes back to BC, where the Egyptian used the obelisks, I call this, for as a shadow watch, shadow clock.
Oh yeah.
And so many other cool information. The first watch that we went to the moon, and so people have during the tutorial they have a small moments where they can learn something really cool during that thing.
Yeah, because that's what I wanted. I love the fact that when I was watching the tutorial, I didn't know anything about watches before I went into this, and your teaching of the methods, but then also teaching of how a watch works and that kind of stuff was really interesting. Probably off topic, but my wife works in a jewelry department in an auction house here in Belfast, and she come home and I was like, well, I can tell you a little bit about watches now. It's a really cool kind of, even like you said, there's little did you know moments which creates talking points for people when you're performing, even when that could come into a routine. You made it interesting from start to finish by adding extra things in. So I know as a person watching, it made it entertaining to watch. So I appreciate that on my end. Thank you.
So I did a good job, because I'm telling you, like I said in the beginning, it was the hardest project I've done, because I love Tempus so much that it was a fun project and a hard project at the same time. It was super, super intensive. For 2 years, I'm telling you, 2 years, I've been working around this project, sometimes 16 hours a day straight. to make it look nice. And I wanted the tutorial not just to be teaching you how to stop a watch, like you said. I want people to get much more than and beyond watch stopping, so that people understand watches and get like a nice feel about everything. And by the way, all the four volumes were scripted by the word, by the way.
Oh,
so
wow.
it was hundreds of pages, just writing what I would say and why I would say, so that I give the right information, but not just blabber about things that are not relevant. So
Yes.
I wanted the editing to be very precise, and I can even say that I have enough material already for Tempus 2, because I actually took out 2 hours. So it could be a 6-hour masterclass, but which was probably too much.
Yeah.
So I've decided to give the 4 hours, which are more direct on the dish system, and then there is more coming sometime.
Oh, I can't
maybe
wait.
10 years, I don't know.
Yeah. After you've taken a break and you can put your feet up and relax for a little bit.
Yeah.
Actually, that was one thing I love about the tutorial is you create your own, give people enough for them to create their own routines and own methods to create amazing performances. I'm trying to think of a way to tell people about this. Like, there's so much in this tutorial. People watching at home have no idea how in depth you go into this. And there's, like you said, everything is articulated so well and so scripted. It's not just a thrown away comment to be forgotten about. Everything in here has a reason. I'm fanboying out, if I'm going to be honest a little bit right now, how much I enjoyed the tutorial. So thank you again. If there's ways for people to reach out to you online, if someone had a question, what's the best way for someone to contact you?
Actually, in the tutorial, I placed my Facebook group, which it's not open yet. It's going to be open the day Tempus is released. And you can join that group. It's a private group. The reason I've opened that is because many times people, like you said, they have many questions. So this is probably the best place where people could ask questions and find out and maybe discuss ideas, and maybe, when I have time to put some other special ideas just for the people in that group. So it's not open yet, but you can already try to connect with me. And
Perfect.
And you can find it at the end of each of the volumes. You can see the Facebook page.
Oh, that's great. That's perfect. Good. Because it's a few people have asked after they buy Tempus, how can they keep the ball rolling and talk about ideas? And I had a few people ask if there's going to be a Facebook group. So that's perfect. Thank you so much.
This way also people can connect with each other if they have ideas. People who have it's not just for Tempus. It's basically for everything that I put out, so that people can discuss ideas and share ideas and stuff like that.
Oh, that's very clever. Well done. I got to be honest, I'll be joining the Facebook group because there's so many ideas with this. I can't wait to dive in. Is it possible, I'm probably pushing it here, is it possible to have a little demonstration of Tempus right now for the people at home?
Right now, you mean?
Yeah.
Of course I can perform it to you. You can see my watch right there. Can you see the watch ticking?
Yep, sure can.
Yes?
Yep.
Okay. And just imagine that this watch right here is the spectator's watch, which is also ticking. Now, you will concentrate on the watch that the spectator has given me, and I will concentrate on my own watch. All right? Now, 3, 2, 1, stop. You can see that these two watches are now dead.
Oh, that is cool. That my mind is fried. Like, I know how it works, but still, just that visual of both those freeze on them, that's incredible.
Thank you.
That's so good. It's so good. So you can do this with the spectator's borrowed watch, your watch, and you show multiple watches on the trailer as well. We've had a question, is there a limit to the amount of watches you could do?
No. It really depends. You wouldn't stop 100 watches or 10 watches. It just takes too long. It's like I actually explain in the tutorial 12 different routines with watches. Some of them I've been using myself in my own shows. Some of them are just ideas that I had over the years, and I decided to share with the people who watch this. And basically, one of the things that I'm talking about is how to do this with multiple borrowed watches. It doesn't even have to be your own watch. I'm just doing it here with my own watch, but it can be, you can take 5 watches from 5 different spectators. You can then bring somebody up and say, which one do you want me to stop first? And you stop that one. The other ones that are still working, then which one to stop second and third and until every single watch in that you collected are stopped, and then they remain dead, by the way, until you decide to make it work again. And I'm giving many different ideas. I have routines where you do 2 watches, which use some other kinds of techniques, all of them around the Tempus system, of course. So there is so much going on in that tutorial. And by the way, in the tutorial, I don't just talk about watch stopping. I actually show different ideas that you can use the Tempus system for. For example, in the trailer, you have seen that where I synchronize two watches. So the 2 watches are 2 random bird watches. Now, when you perform to an audience, the time will probably be more or less the same for all the watches that you collect, but the second hands are probably not going to be taken in the same spot. Actually, it's 1 to 60. You have a better chance in the roulette at the casino than finding 2 random watches which are ticking exactly on the same second. So you would just collect two watches and place them on the table or place them in the spectator's hand. It doesn't matter really, and just cover them with both hands, concentrate for a moment, and then when you show it again, both watches are synchronized precisely on the second. And the cool thing is they can immediately take the watches and put it back on their hands. There's nothing to find because you are completely clean at the end.
I love, because that was the next thing I wanted to talk about, was the synchronized watches, that visual. And I was watching it live with a few magicians when we put the trailer up. And when that synchronized watch came out, there were the gasps of like, what, how? Because that visual of, like you said, just covering both watches and then pulling away, and then they're both synchronized.
Yeah, of course. And by the way, it's also very easy. That's the cool part. You have no idea. You do have idea, but people, it's just so easy to do. Like the entire system just looks complicated.
Yeah.
Once you go and dive into it, it's like super easy, and you actually have to work on your routines as a performer much more than the actual method behind it.
Yes.
And you have so many other things. For example, I'm talking. Are you familiar with the time force, where you need to take a certain watch, usually with a date?
Yep.
I don't want to expose too much because it's not my idea. I actually show a different way of how to use the Tempus system for making time forces on a borrowed watch, and it can be any borrowed watch. It doesn't have to be one with a date. It doesn't have anything to do with that basically. So you can time force. You can cause the watch to stop at a certain number, and then predict that number. Or let somebody can pick a number from 1 to 12, and you would stop that watch to that exact number, for example. So you can do like a lot of things with Tempus. You can do watch stopping and so many other things as well.
Really, it's limited to your imagination as a performer.
Yeah.
You can, like you said, you've given them so many different effects and methods and routines you can do with this. All you need to do as a performer to go, okay, what can I mix and change and chop in? Because we had quite a few people saying the same thing. Could you synchronize 2 wall clocks? That type of thing.
Yes, I never tried it myself, to be honest. I never even thought about it, so thank you for that. But it's with the system, it's much better to do it with the board watches, hand watches from people, because you would do it instantly with no setup. You just take the watches and use the hyper right into the effects. With the wall clock, you could do it, but you have to set up the watch.
Yeah, like you said, that would be. A wall clock would be more set for, like you said, a corporate or a little bit of a show you're putting on for everyone to set that kind of stuff up. You're best off, if you're doing close-up walk around, is to stick with the wristwatches, which you can probably find more of. Like, I don't think I even have a wall clock in my house, so you can do that here anyway. But that's great.
I have a wall clock here. I just put the battery in for the interview because I hate the ticking noise. It makes me crazy, like really nuts. Like
late at night at 3 a.m. you can hear it and you're going, what is that noise? But then you just do this and it stops.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much for clearing up all those things. No, I love that. Well, if there's anyone, like if anyone's watching and you got any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll make sure I ask Menny, and then we can answer them on a future episode of like a question time that we have on our Watch Due this week. But I appreciate you taking the time, Menny, to come and hang out and talk a little about Tempus today. So thank you so much. Thank you for releasing it and sharing it with us and the community as well.
You're welcome.
I know I'm going to have a lot of fun with it. Like, I'm going to go to Magic Live this weekend, and I can't wait to play with it and walk around the convention and stop some watches. And, it's going to be so much fun. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Well, you have a great weekend. What do you got planned for the rest of the day? You got Much planned?
Still have to do some work, because I'm not going to be in the studio for the next 2 days, so I have to do some stuff before I go.
No, totally. I understand that. And then put your feet up and do nothing. Turn your phone off and relax.
Yeah, that's what I said when I finished Tempus, when I put it out and uploaded everything to the Vendor Center. And it didn't happen yet. There's always something going on.
Yeah, there's always someone from Murphy's going, hey, do you want to do an interview and talk about Tempus a little bit? Yeah. That was one thing I wanted to, a lot of people were asking about was the price range. People were saying, how can you sell something so awesome like this for $55? Can you talk about why? Actually,
it's a decision I made together with Patrick at Murphy's. I could probably charge 10 times more than this.
Oh, yeah. That's what people say.
But I like to share my ideas. I enjoy teaching, and so I want this to be reachable for everybody. Yes, I could charge $500 for a course, and it's worth much more than that. To be honest, I'm not saying it's because it's mine. It's just it's so much material in there, so much work went into this, and you not just get the gimmicks, and accessories. You also get that old pre-Tempus gimmick that I was talking about, and you get the 4 hours of in-depth teaching. This alone, it gives you so much. After that, you don't really need anything else for doing watch stopping. But I've decided to make it like a good price for everybody. That's the idea.
May God have mercy on everyone's souls. There'll be so much watch stopping across the world now, which I can't wait for. It's going to be great.
Time and around the world is just going to stop.
Yeah.
And then we synchronize the time zones between the places.
Yeah. Times Square will be synced up with Australia, like Sydney, Australia. Exactly. It'll be perfect. Well, I appreciate it. Well, thank you so much, Menny, again. I really appreciate it. You have a great day and a great evening.
Thank you. And thank you everybody at Murphy's, you and the other guys and everybody there for doing such a great job. And I enjoy working with you. And
no, I appreciate it. Well, I'll see you more on the Facebook group and everyone else watching right now on the Facebook group to talk about more things, everything Tempus.
Thank you guys for your support, which makes me continue creating for you guys.
I can't wait for Volume 2. No.
Thanks.
Tempus 2.
Tempus 2, yeah. Volume 5, you mean.
Yeah, Volume 5.
Yeah.
All right, take care. Bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.